Hey everybody, Jeremy here from Nobot Studios. I am back with another Grit Fantasy RPG video. Today I'll be talking about why Grit does not have classes. I put a lot of thought into this topic and I hope I can communicate what I really want to say about classes and how they relate to Grit Fantasy RPG. I want to begin by talking about the positives because I want to make it clear that just because I chose not to use classes in Grit doesn't mean I think they're always bad. There are folks out there that probably really love classes that will probably never move away from them. There are some that probably don't care either way, and then there are folks like me who really don't like them. But I do want to talk about the tradition of classes in role-playing games because they go way back to the beginning of the roots of our hobby. I think the reason why you see it so commonly used is because they have ties to the history of our hobby. There are just so many iterations of classes throughout so many different systems. They're not going away anytime soon. They're just part of our hobby. So I think, one of the big things is tradition, really. With classes and why they're used. I think another reason is familiarity, and I think this is a big one. It creates recognizable tropes that people can play that are easy to understand. It gives players a very focused play style that they can follow kind of without thinking so much. They can just kind of fall into the playstyle of a barbarian or a thief or a bard or a druid, and it's just this sort of pre-gen playstyle that they can use. With that comes like a preset set of skills, feats, abilities that you can gain from choosing that class. And I think that's appealing to people too. It's tied to advancement. So you can kind of tailor your druid or barbarian or whatever it is to make them more and more powerful at what they do specifically in the game. I think they're universally understood over different systems. So like if you move from one game to another, they typically have very similar classes related, in each game. So you're going to not be so confused. It's going to be easy for you to transition from one to the other, especially if you're a newer player. You can kind of understand that easy. I think they're arguably good for new players because it gives them a structure to work within. It's just sort of this already set up thing that you just drop into. You kind of learn a few things about the core rules, and then you're ready to go. This is kind of a intro sort of stepping stone, I would say, classes are. And I think that for folks that really like tactical gameplay, to quote-unquote beat the game, classes kind of provide that meat and potatoes of kind of digging into the details and min-maxing your stuff to kill stuff, basically. Damage output or whatever special ability they can do. I also think this is tied to tactical play as a group because, you have the different tropes that do certain special things, and you get the combination of the group together that the combo of all the classes can help you, in your tactics, beat what the GM is putting out for you. So that's kind of what I see with classes, and the familiarity and all those things kind of come into play for the positives on that. So getting into like why I chose not to use classes in Grit, I have to say to start off, Grit started with classes. And I think it was because I was a newer designer then, didn't have as much experience, and I was just going with the tradition of, an RPG has to have classes, right? Like that's the thing. I at the same time, I kind of had a reaction to 5e, and it wasn't a good reaction. It's the same kind of bad reaction that I always have with it. But I saw that there were far more classes available than there were back in the day when I started. And at that time, I thought, well, that was just too much complexity. So I wanted to narrow that down, and I narrowed it down to 3 classes, which is Warrior, Rogue, and Mage. And so I played that in the playtesting and design development of the first 2.5 years of Grit, and eventually moved away from it. But I still really like that 3-class idea. I'm keeping that in my notes because who knows what down the road I'm going to come up with, and I just always kind of like that breakdown. But we shall see. I don't know. I'm still super involved with Grit, and classes are not a Grit thing. Not to say that I can't come up with some kind of class-related thing with a supplement or something, but the core rules of Grit will never have classes. So when I was developing the game, and when I set this down after 2.5 years and picked up ICRPG and started playing that for years, ICRPG had types, which were kind of like loose classes. And the way that the milestones worked and the kind of random loot tables worked, you basically would start with sort of a class-like thing for your character, but as you kept playing, you kind of became something else because of the loot. The loot shaped your character, even though you had choices for milestones. And I was playing 2nd edition, by the way, not Master Edition so much, as a player and as a GM, but as a player mostly. So I learned a lot from that. I found that I really enjoyed the fluidity of how you could start as like a fighter and end up being like a wizard or vice versa. I enjoyed that, and there was some freedom in that. And so I think that had some influence on me when I came back to Grit, looking at that and saying, I don't think Grit really needs classes at all. Like it just does not need it. And when I took them out, I didn't miss them. There was no, I shouldn't have done that. It was like, yes, that was the right decision. It's absolutely more streamlined without them, and you can still build a character for a particular type of play style if you want to, based on your lineage choice and your loot items that you pick. And if you work with your GM, the loot tables are designed to be broken down into certain types, so it's easy to kind of like focus on being a certain type of character if you're playing like a longer game of it. So the first reason really why I took classes out was because of simplicity. Now, for those of you who have watched my videos or have followed me on Discord and know what I'm all about, I'm all about the no bullshit, no fluff stuff in the rules. Like, I put significant energy into writing in a style that is absolute minimum amount of words required to say the maximum amount of stuff. So I found that classes just added more bullshit that I didn't need, honestly. So it's just following that minimalist approach. I find that classes add a complexity that are not needed in a minimal game like Grit. When you have classes, you have to have all those little micro rules and stuff related to their specialties, right? Otherwise, why would you have classes if you're not going to have some kind of special abilities or skills or feats or something related to it, right? So I wanted to take all of that out and just focus on putting really cool loot in the game that anyone can use. I really feel like the core rule set had to be streamlined and classes did not have a part in it. Okay. Second thing, which is maybe the more important than the first one, I don't know. They're both very important to me. Creative freedom. Okay, classes, I feel, pigeonhole you into just this play style that's like not inspiring. It forces you into a path of a way that you play your character. Some people may like that, but I want to have freedom to play the way I want my character to develop over time, right? I wanted to have an open format for Grit, that you can become anything you want. You can play any way that you want. You can have, if you play over a number of games, I want you to be able to develop that character into different ways based on what happens in the story, not so much about what's in the book, right? I really believe in player agency. I believe that I want them to be inspired by what's being told at the table, not rules that are preset for a certain way of playing. So to me, creative freedom is huge, and that's what Grit is about. I just want the rules to get out of the way and just to get to the table and play, right? So that's a big one. Third one, I'm just going to straight up say this. Classes are boring. Like they're so boring to me. Like I've played for decades. I know not everyone has got his, decades behind them in RPGs. But dang, I've seen it over and over and over again. It's just like the standard tropes are not inspiring to me at all. I've seen it all over and over again. So, boring. They hinder creativity. I want characters to change from the story, like I said, not a predetermined path that someone else has written, which would be me. Okay, I want you to write the story of your character, not what I think it should be, right? Okay. So I want to have the ability for characters to grow without tropes. Like I want to have the ability to have like a wizard sword swinger or like a huge burly lockpicker. Like weird combinations of stuff. I want that to be able to happen, and I think that can happen with Grit because it's open. It's not about following a set path. So, and another thing too is that I think that classes are very tied to advancement systems. I think, because Grit doesn't have an advancement system or levels or anything like that, it's another thing that just didn't fit with what I was trying to do. Okay. So that's in a nutshell kind of why I chose not to do it. Now, the question is, will this affect the interest for Grit Fantasy RPG? The answer is yes. I really think that it will and has affected the interest in the game because it's not familiar. And I know there are other indie games out there that probably don't have classes. I've looked over a few myself. Always good to see. But I do think that it's breaking with tradition in a way that maybe throws some people off, especially those who are more familiar with D&D or have played D&D for a long time or D&D like games. I think it's going to be less appealing to them. Should I change my course and try to appeal to that group of people? Absolutely not. I refuse to kind of curtail my creative design focus and try to make it more appeal to more masses, and kind of get away from what my drive is as a designer. I'm going to do my thing, and I really believe that the right people will find it. It may be a smaller group of people, but it will be people that are open to experiencing this type of play style, which I've been working so hard to kind of develop. So I hope that people can find it in themselves to be open-minded and try something new with like this game, Grit. But I understand that not everyone is open-minded and may just want to fall into their groove, which is fine as long as they're having fun. I can't expect them to jump on board with something they're not comfortable with or don't want to play, right? So it's all good. I may have been a little bit more affected by this earlier when I was designing, like as a new designer. But now that I've got like the first book written and the second book mostly like very close to being finished written, just tweaking now and working on illustrations like this, it'll be done this year. I feel like I'm not so worried about it so much. I'm just going to keep trucking along on what I'm doing and not let that affect me or change my course of action. What I do have to mention that one thing that just frustrates me and makes me like laugh at the same time. I know this may not go over well, but people who have like played D&D for a long time and like they say they want to go play something new, but when they discover this new game that's not like D&D, they have an issue with that. Like, if you're looking to play a game that's not D&D, but it isn't like D&D, you don't want to try it. Like, how about you just play D&D and stop whining about it? Like, just fucking play D&D. I mean, if it's, I don't know. I just don't get it. It's frustrates me as a designer. I'm just like, what? Like, really? Okay. Anyway, that's all I have to say. I know it's kind of a curmudgeonous bitch, but there you have it. So anyway, that's all I had to say about this whole class thing and how it relates to Grit Fantasy RPG. If you made it this far, congratulations. And thank you so much for listening in, and if you're a supporter or of Grit Fantasy RPG and you're on the Discord, thank you so much. It's good to have you along, and I appreciate you enjoying the classless RPG that Grit is. And that's all I got to say about that. So I hope everybody's out there having a good time, getting some games in, and keep rolling those dice.